The galaxy was old. Very old. It had seen thousands of wars, the rise of great empires, and the fall of powerful species. Civilizations came and went like waves in a silent ocean of stars. The galaxy believed it understood power. It believed it knew which species mattered, and which ones did not. That belief would become its biggest mistake. Humanity was new. Among the ancient starfaring races, humans were late arrivals. Their ships were simple. Their technology was rough around the edges. Their borders were small, quiet, and easy to overlook. When the great councils of the galaxy spoke of humans, they did so with mild interest at best, and open amusement at worst. They called humans Deathworlders. Not as a title of respect. As a joke. Humanity came from a violent planet. A world of storms, shifting continents, earthquakes, predators, and diseases. A place where survival was never guaranteed. To the soft-world species of the galaxy, those born under calm skies and gentle gravity, Earth sounded like madness. And yet, humans smiled. They traded. They explored. They avoided war. To the galaxy, this behavior confirmed everything they believed. Dangerous world, the elders said. Fragile minds, the scholars agreed. Unstable, emotional, and weak, the generals concluded. So the galaxy ignored them. Human warnings were dismissed as noise. Human concerns were delayed, buried under endless meetings and glowing words that meant nothing. Their small colonies were pushed aside. Their trade routes were blocked. Their space was violated, slowly, carefully, just enough to test their reaction. Humanity protested. Politely. They sent messages. Diplomatic envoys. Requests for dialogue. Each time, they were met with silence, or laughter. Some empires openly mocked them in council chambers. What will they do? One alien lord scoffed. Throw rocks from orbit, another joked. The galaxy had a long memory, but it forgot one simple truth. Quiet is not the same as weak. Humans did not shout. They did not threaten. They did not mobilize fleets or make grand speeches. Instead, they observed. They recorded. They learned. Every insult. Every broken treaty. Every ship that crossed their borders without permission. And still, they waited. To the ancient powers, this patience looked like fear. The mistake grew worse. An alliance of dominant species decided it was time to manage humanity. Not destroy them, just contain them. Human colonies on the edge of known space were labeled as disputed zones. Trade was restricted for security reasons. Human civilians were stopped, searched, and sometimes detained. Accidents began to happen. A mining station went silent. A cargo ship vanished in deep space. A colony called for help, and no one answered. The galaxy told itself these were isolated events. Unfortunate, but acceptable. Humans were expandable. After all, they had not fought back. Yet something strange began to happen in human space. Communications grew shorter. Diplomatic traffic slowed. Human ships stopped asking for permission. Inside their worlds, humanity changed. They stopped debating if something should be done and began discussing when. Old defense networks, built long ago and never used, were quietly reactivated. Shipyards that once focused on exploration shifted their designs. Civilian industries adapted without complaint. Still, the galaxy noticed nothing. Why would they? The Deathworlders were calm. Too calm. The final insult came quietly, without ceremony. A human colony, small, peaceful, and far from the galactic core, was declared outside of protected space. Its population was told to relocate. When they refused, enforcement fleets moved in. There was no grand battle. No heroic stand. Only silence. When the dust settled, the colony was gone. That was the moment. Across human space, a line was crossed, not in anger, not in panic, but with cold clarity. The galaxy had mistaken restraint for surrender. It had confused patience with weakness. And now, it would learn the difference. Far from alien eyes, deep within human territory, systems long dormant came fully online. Ancient war doctrines were unlocked. Fleets that had never flown together began to move. The stars remained quiet. But the galaxy did not realize it was standing on the edge of a firestorm. Because when Deathworlders finally snap, they do not shout. They burn the sky. Long before the galaxy noticed humanity, Earth had already tested them. Humans were born on a world that did not forgive mistakes. Their planet shook without warning. Storms swallowed cities. Oceans rose and fell. Heat burned, cold froze, and nature never cared who survived. From the moment a human took their first breath, the world challenged them. And they adapted. Predators once hunted them. Humans learned to hunt back. Disease once wiped them out. Humans learned to heal. Disasters once broke them. Humans learned to rebuild. Again. And again. And again. To the soft-world species of the galaxy, this kind of life was unthinkable. Their worlds were stable. Their skies calm. Their dangers controlled. They evolved without pressure. Without constant loss. Without the need to fight for every inch of ground. They believed that struggle created weakness. They were wrong. On Earth, survival was not heroic. It was normal. Humans did not see hardship as tragedy, it was simply part of life. You endured. You learned. You prepared for the next blow. This mindset shaped everything they built. Human cities were layered with backups. Power systems had fail-safes. Food chains had redundancies. Even their ships carried systems inside systems, designed to keep functioning after damage others would call fatal. The galaxy saw this as inefficiency. Humans called it common sense. Their military doctrine followed the same logic. Humans did not design weapons for glory. They designed them for worst-case scenarios. For when everything went wrong. For when the enemy had every advantage. Because on Earth, something always went wrong. Alien analysts studied humanity and missed the most important detail. Humans did not fear war. They feared unnecessary war. Violence was never their first choice, but when forced upon them, they committed fully. A human saying was quietly shared among their people. Hope for peace. Prepare for hell. While alien empires displayed fleets in open space as symbols of power, humans hid theirs. While others trusted treaties, humans planned for betrayal. While councils argued theory, humans trained for reality. Still, they did not strike back. When colonies were threatened, humans reinforced evacuation routes. When trade was blocked, they stockpiled. When borders were violated, they mapped enemy movement. Every action was calm. Measured. Silent. To the galaxy, this looked like submission. Inside human society, it was something else entirely. Children were taught history, not just victories, but failures. Wars lost. Mistakes made. Costs paid in lives. Humans remembered their scars. They did not erase them. Because forgetting pain meant repeating it. As the pressure increased, human leaders did not shout in councils. They did not issue threats. Instead, they spoke quietly among themselves. The decision was not emotional. It was practical. The galaxy would not stop. And if it would not stop, then it would be stopped. Human engineers reopened sealed vaults. Old designs, too extreme for peaceful times, were reviewed again. Ships meant only for last resort defense were updated with modern systems. Not bigger. Not louder. Just more efficient. Human fleets were not built to intimidate. They were built to end conflicts quickly. Precision over spectacle. Overwhelming force applied once, not endlessly. Even now, they hoped it would not come to this. But hope was no longer a strategy. The final reports from the lost colony reached Earth weeks late. Images of empty habitats. Abandoned homes. Broken signals. No survivors found. No official explanation given. Humanity did not rage. They mourned. Then they moved on. Across their worlds, a quiet shift took place. Civilian broadcasts stopped discussing if the galaxy could be trusted. The question was settled. The only discussion left was how much force would be required. And still, the galaxy remained blind. They saw no war banners. No mass mobilization. No panic. They saw only silence. They did not understand that for Deathworlders, silence was not fear. It was focus. Because humans did not prepare for war the way others did. They prepared to finish it. The galaxy believed it still had control. Human space was quiet. Too quiet. To the great empires, silence meant success. It meant pressure was working. It meant the Deathworlders were learning their place. So they pushed further. Borders that once mattered became flexible. Patrol fleets crossed into human systems without notice. Sensors were placed near human worlds, watching, measuring, judging. Trade convoys were stopped and inspected, sometimes held for weeks. Humans protested again. Once. The message was short. Clear. Calm. Do not cross this line. The galaxy laughed. They had seen lines before. Red lines drawn by weak species trying to protect pride instead of power. Lines that vanished the moment pressure increased. This one, they assumed, would be no different. An enforcement fleet entered a human system that had been marked as restricted. Not a military stronghold. Not a shipyard. A civilian system. A place of farms, habitats, and transport hubs. The fleet commander did not expect resistance. Why would he? Human ships kept their distance. Human stations stayed silent. The fleet transmitted orders, demanded compliance, and prepared to seize control. Then something unusual happened. Human traffic stopped. No panic. No chaos. Just stillness. Civilian vessels aligned themselves into neat, controlled evacuation paths. Stations powered down non-essential systems. Data streams cut off one by one. The alien commander felt a brief sense of unease. It passed. Enforcement teams landed on the largest habitat. They expected protests. Confusion. Fear. They found none. The corridors were empty. Lights dim. Doors unlocked. The station felt abandoned, as if its people had stepped away moments before. The commander ordered a search. That was when the first signal vanished. Then another. Then all of them. No explosion. No distress call. Just silence. The enforcement fleet waited for updates that never came. Long-range sensors detected unusual power fluctuations, deep within the system, far beyond civilian zones. Human ships began to move. Slowly. Purposefully. They did not charge. They did not threaten. They formed precise patterns, blocking exit vectors without firing a single shot. The alien commander issued a warning. Then a threat. No response. For the first time, uncertainty spread through the fleet. Humans transmitted a single message. This system is closed. Confusion turned to anger. The commander ordered weapons to be armed. That order crossed the line. What followed was fast. Surgical. Brutally controlled. Human ships disabled engines first. Communications second. Weapons last. Each strike was clean, efficient, and final. No wasted shots. No dramatic explosions. Within minutes, the enforcement fleet was powerless. Boarding teams arrived, not in anger, but in silence. They moved with discipline, securing ships without resistance. The commander was taken alive. When he demanded an explanation, the human officer answered simply. You were warned. The galaxy reacted with outrage. Emergency councils were called. Human actions were labeled aggressive. Dangerous. Unacceptable. Demands were made for immediate withdrawal and surrender. Humanity did not argue. They sent one response to every major power. You crossed into our civilian space. You removed our people. You ignored every warning. This will not happen again. The galaxy saw this as rebellion. As a challenge. As proof that the Deathworlders had finally shown their true nature. They began planning retaliation. They never considered the possibility that humanity was still holding back. Because from the human perspective, this was not war. This was the last warning. And the galaxy had already used up all the others. The galaxy prepared for a long war. It believed humans would fight like everyone else, slow, loud, and desperate. There would be border clashes. Political speeches. Months of tension before anything truly changed. That was the second great mistake. Humanity did not mobilize in public. They did not issue grand declarations. They did not threaten revenge. They simply stopped pretending. Across human space, protocols that had never been used were activated. Not in panic, but with precision. Defense systems shifted to war alignment. Civilian traffic vanished from strategic lanes. Star maps updated with new priorities. To the galaxy, it looked like nothing was happening. Inside human command centers, everything was already moving. Old fleets, once built as a final safeguard, were awakened. Ships designed for conditions others could not survive powered up silently in deep space docks. Their hulls were not elegant. Their weapons were not decorative. They were practical. Human commanders did not ask for permission. They did not debate ethics in open chambers. Every action had already been discussed years ago, behind closed doors, during times of peace. Because Deathworlders plan for disaster when others celebrate comfort. The snap did not come with anger. It came with clarity. A single command spread through human networks. Execute containment phase. Human fleets moved, not toward borders, but through them. Using routes the galaxy believed impossible. Passing through unstable regions, dense gravity wells, and radiation zones that alien ships avoided at all costs. Humans had trained for this. Alien sensors detected movement too late. By the time alerts were raised, human task groups were already in position, cutting supply lines, isolating fleets, locking down key systems. No warnings were given. No speeches were made. Strategic hubs went dark. Communication relays vanished. Entire sectors lost contact with the galactic core in a matter of hours. The galaxy panicked. Councils demanded explanations. Admirals called for reinforcements. Emergency protocols were activated, but they were designed for wars that followed rules. This war did not. Human strikes were not random. They were precise. Each target chosen not for destruction, but for impact. The goal was not fear. It was control. Enemy fleets found themselves surrounded without ever seeing the ships that trapped them. Weapons malfunctioned. Engines failed. Systems shut down one after another. Humanity was not conquering. They were disabling the galaxy's ability to fight. For the first time in centuries, the dominant empires felt something unfamiliar. Vulnerability. Reports flooded in. We can't reach command. Our fleet is stuck. Our defenses never activated. And beneath it all, one terrifying realization began to spread. The Deathworlders had not reacted. They had prepared. The galaxy had believed humans were slow to anger. That belief was true. But it misunderstood what came after. Humans did not explode with rage. They went quiet. They focused. They finished what they started. And as the stars flickered with the light of sudden battles, the galaxy began to understand. This was not a rebellion. This was not revenge. This was a correction. The galaxy had never burned like this before. Wars had happened many times. Empires had fought over territory, resources, and pride. But those wars followed patterns. They were slow. Predictable. Controlled by tradition and rules. This war broke all of them. Human strikes spread faster than panic. One system went dark, then another. Star lanes that once carried trade now carried wreckage. Defense stations blinked out of existence before alarms could finish sounding. To many alien commanders, it felt impossible. Humans were not supposed to move this fast. Not across this much space. Not with this level of control. Yet they did. Human fleets appeared at the heart of enemy territory, not the edges. Supply depots vanished. Shipyards were disabled without a single civilian casualty. Command worlds lost power and communication at the same time, as if the galaxy itself had been switched off. Alien admirals demanded answers. How do humans know where everything is? The truth was simple. Humans had been watching for a very long time. While the galaxy mocked them, humans mapped every route. While councils debated policy, humans studied behavior. They knew which systems mattered and which were only for show. They did not waste effort on symbols. They went for the spine. The stars themselves seemed to catch fire as battles erupted across multiple sectors. Plasma flares lit up space. Broken fleets drifted silently, weapons untouched, crews alive but helpless. Humans did not hunt survivors. They did not chase fleeing ships. Once a target was neutralized, they moved on. This confused the galaxy more than violence ever could. Why aren't they finishing us? Some asked. Because humans were not fighting for hatred. They were fighting for an ending. In one powerful empire, a grand fleet finally engaged a human task force head-on. They expected a desperate clash. A test of strength. What they found was something else. Human ships absorbed damage that should have destroyed them. Their formations adapted mid-battle. When weapons failed, backup systems engaged instantly. When ships were lost, others filled the gaps without hesitation. There was no fear. Only purpose. The alien fleet collapsed in minutes. As news spread, fear replaced pride. Ancient empires realized their advantages meant nothing. Their superior numbers. Their grand traditions. Their massive fleets. None of it mattered. They had prepared for enemies like themselves. They had not prepared for Deathworlders. Across the galaxy, leaders began to understand the truth too late. Humanity was not trying to rule the galaxy. They were not trying to destroy it. They were sending a message so clear it could not be ignored. This is what happens when you corner us. As the last major strongholds fell silent, the fires in the stars began to fade. The war slowed, not because humans were tired, but because there was nothing left to resist. The galaxy burned. And in the ashes, it finally learned respect. When the fires in the stars finally faded, the galaxy felt empty. Not destroyed. Not conquered. Just quiet. Communication networks slowly came back online. Emergency signals stopped flooding the void. Fleets that had been trapped drifted powerless, waiting for orders that never came. And then, something unexpected happened. The humans stopped. They did not advance. They did not claim worlds. They did not demand tribute or obedience. To the galaxy, this was more frightening than war. Councils gathered again, this time in fear rather than pride. Leaders who once mocked humanity now spoke their name carefully. Every sentence was weighed. Every word chosen with caution. They waited for demands. None came. Instead, a single human transmission was broadcast across all major channels. It was not loud. It was not threatening. It did not celebrate victory. It was simple. Hostilities are over. Civilian zones are restored. Borders are closed. Do not cross them again. That was all. No punishment lists. No speeches. No history lessons. But the message was clear. The galaxy had been corrected, not conquered. Human fleets withdrew from occupied systems as quietly as they had arrived. Disabled stations were left intact. Enemy crews were returned alive. Trade lanes reopened under new conditions. Humanity rebuilt what was lost. They always had. The galaxy, however, would never be the same. A new rule spread, not written in law, but burned into memory. Do not test Deathworlders. Do not corner them. Do not mistake calm for weakness. Alien academies rewrote their doctrines. Historians stopped calling humanity unstable. The word Deathworlder lost its mocking tone. It became a warning. Because everyone now understood the truth. Humans did not seek war. But if forced into it, they ended it on their terms. On Earth, life returned to normal. Cities rebuilt. Children went to school. Ships returned to exploration and trade. Humanity did not celebrate the war. They mourned the cost. They remembered the lost colony. They remembered why the line had been drawn. And they stayed ready. Because Deathworlders knew something the galaxy had just learned the hard way. Peace is precious. And it is protected, not by words. But by those willing to burn the sky to defend it.